Okay, so I was saying like the different types of instruction. So you can have like the guided instruction when the teacher is leading an instruction and guiding them along, but also incorporating group projects and also having them work with peers. So is it helping them fill in some of the gaps maybe they didn't understand? Maybe it could be like a language barrier, or it could be something they couldn't really get whenever talking with the teacher. But as a kid, putting down the kids' terms so they can help each other out that way.
Right. I was thinking that when I first read the question, I was thinking more in line of how can you get all the different types of learners. So you've got your abstract, the kids who need more hands-on stuff. You've got your visual learners, they need to see it, and then you've got the what's the third one?
Kinesthetic.
Kinesthetic. They got to be able to have manipulatives in order to kind of put it together and work with it to connect it with however they learned it the first way. So I try to incorporate each one of those. I can't do it all in one lesson, but I try to incorporate it as much as I can throughout the week in terms of a concept to make sure that I'm hitting all those different types.
Yeah, and that's just differentiating the curriculum to where you can at least get two of the learning styles involved in getting those instructions out. The biggest thing I see with our current group is the technology, and that's the attention part of getting them to focus. Because some of the lectures or some of the on-hand stuff draws a lot of off-task, behavior, off-task, talking or whatever. But I've seen when they're in front of a computer or they're actually engaged in the lesson through technology, it kind of, I don't know how the results come out, but I do know as far as focusing them on what the content of the lesson is, they kind of retain it a little more. Yeah. So I know when you incorporate technology into it, it helps with the focus.
And that's something like from a technology perspective, it's another way for them to see it. And plus, since they're already using it on a day-to-day basis, they know how to use technology. That's something that, like you said, is keeping their attention span, and they can do it for longer periods of time than just sitting there listening to somebody lecture, to them over and over again. So, yeah, I'd agree with that.
And based off of that, transitioning over to the data-driven assessments. So basically, like with the kids just taking our POP kids just taking the CA. So, what would our game plan now in order for instruction from now to the STAR test? Do we have a game plan? Well, how you want to implement?
Well, it all depends on the data, and your data is going to be different than my data because of where you're at within the curriculum in terms of, or compared to where I'm at. You were able to get to surface area volume. You were able to get to some concepts that I haven't been able to get to yet. So when I look at my data, I'm going to look at critiques or texts, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to look at those ones that I missed, that I haven't covered, or maybe the ones that I wasn't able to get more in depth with. But I'm going to pay more attention to the concepts that I thought I taught well, and figure out, okay, how was the question worded? What were the responses that they had compared to the correct answer, and just maybe I can see a pattern based on why they got that particular problem wrong.
To help with your instruction.
Exactly. To reteach or whatever.
And what I look for is that's to help with my instructions, but to also look at that student to see where I can start at the point of confusion to where the instructions or pretty much their learning of their content to where they may have misunderstood or some of the distractors that may have been in the wording, because the biggest part of that test is reading. The skill part, I know my kids pretty much can do that part, but applying the skill parts to the application part is the biggest thing I see. So looking at my data to those teaks that may have been low, it gives me a starting point of where I need to start with that particular student. And I do that through tutoring because I have certain days isolated for them through the week to come, and we work on those particular teaks for them to understand what did you not understand.
Because I'm noticing, like with my students, like you said, they understand how to the skill part. But a lot of times they tend to not read the question in detail to see what the question is actually asking them for. Like I told a lot of my students, a lot of times when you see a right triangle, majority of the time it's Pythagorean theorem. But sometimes you have to do 2 or 3 concepts to find an answer to the problem, but the problem may not be what the missing side is. It could be finding the perimeter of that shape.
Exactly.
You know, so as soon as they find a missing side, they think, oh, that's my answer. And that answer is one of the answer choices.
One of the distractors.
Right, so they think they're done, but they don't look in detail and exactly see what the question is specifically asking them for. So man, they want to just rush, oh yeah, I got this, I understand this, whatever, without being more detail oriented.
Yeah. Well, on the same lines, I was wondering, what do you guys think about when other people disaggregate your data, like meaning your classes? Like when people like they're looking for trends, I kind of feel like when maybe administrators or whoever, when they disaggregate the data, they don't get the complete picture of what's really going on. It's just basically black and white on their paper.
And that's a lot of them knowing that teacher and knowing the curriculum. And I think the more and more they know the curriculum and know that teacher, it's a better fit to what the instructions of the curriculum were for those kids in there. But still the biggest thing is data. So it's a starting point. It's used for a certain percentage of assisting with the instructions of what we're trying to do with that student. It's not a whole telltale situation, but it is a starting point to see where kids are at that point.
And it makes sense, like you said, it makes sense to look for trends among all teachers for that particular.
Yes.
You know, data can be, it should drive the majority of your decisions, but it shouldn't, like I said, it shouldn't be the main focus of the decisions that you make. It should just be one part.
Yeah, because there's so many variables that's involved in their kids learning, to where data is just an aspect of what I need to do to get this kid to be successful. Those other variables that you may have to deal with that student is not data.
Right, because I know in my situation, I have kids with varying maturity levels. You know, I have some kids, you know, they'll sit here, you know, they come to class every day, they don't say nothing, they get the instruction, they're ready to go home. I have some kids, there's the one that's straight up and talk all day. You know, I'm constantly redirecting them, you know, so they don't distract the ones who are trying to learn. And I have some that, I have one that, actually two that I honestly, you know, may not be ready for the rigor of pre-AP. You know, their parents want them challenged, what the case may be, and but mentally and academically, they're not there.
Yeah. But I always tell those students that it's good because it's a foresight for you. It's something that it's not going away. It's going to be there regardless of whatever time in your academic career you come to it. Think of it as you're seeing it earlier. So now what you take to do with it is my part of trying to make you successful, but the other part is you trying to figure out how much of this can you retain and how much of this will you be successful doing. Now that part, that's that other variable. That's the part to where it's placed on them and their parents to be able to do those practice problems, to be able to get them to tutoring, to be able to motivate them to want to. So, I mean, it's like you said, it's a variation of different personalities in there, to whereas we know that when that data comes out, we know that other part of the agenda that was there that may not show truly to an administrator or someone looking at it.